Once upon a time, there was a student. A very studious young man indeed. He had been accepted to an incredibly prestigious university. An honor, an exciting opportunity. Something he had been waiting for all of his life. But when he got to the school, he discovered that it was not how he had been told it was. His classmates seemed fickle and flighty, the faculty disengaged and irritated, the facilities sparkling on the outside, but felt hollow on the insides. The young student began to worry how he was going to occupy his time, his years. He had come to study, to learn, to discover, to catalog, to classify. But it seemed like he had come to the wrong place. But how could this be, he wondered, when he had heard his whole life about the splendor of the ivory tower, about how wonderful it would be when he finally was accepted into their halls. And one night, the young student was in the library, walking amongst the stacks. The stacks, of course, were deserted. No one else was interested in the library. No one else was reading or studying or learning somehow in this place of learning. Running his hands over the books, barely even reading them, the disappointment and hopelessness starting to grip the most inner parts of his heart. And as he ran his fingers along the spine of the book, his finger caught on the edge of one of them suddenly. And without even meaning to, without knowing he was doing it, he pulled the book off the shelf. But not all the way off the shelf. It fell out halfway and then clicked. And then for a moment, there was nothing. And then the floor beneath him opened up and he slid down, and seemingly endless smooth metal ramp down, the light from the stacks growing dimmer and dimmer. Down he slid. Until finally, he landed in a library. But not the library he'd been in before, not the empty, decrepit, abandoned library. This, he knew immediately upon looking at it, this was the real library. One that had been forgotten by the world above, but never once had any single page decayed, had any book been placed in the wrong spot, the circulation perfect, the catalog spotless. Cabinets full of index cards and classifications. Glittering, crystalline knowledge. And he let the scene just wash over him. He thought of his classmates who thought he was foolish to confine himself to the halls of study. But it was only from this confinement that he had found what he had truly been looking for. And he began to read, he began to study, he began to look. And as time went on, he realized that he had no idea how long he'd been there. But whenever that thought would enter his mind, it would simply flit away again. Not a problem, not a crisis, not a worry, just a minor thought, a minor stray distraction in need of correction. And so he read and he read and he read, and he studied and he pored over every footnote, every parameter, every diagram. And sometimes as he read, he thought that maybe his hands start to look a bit strange as they move the pages past one by one, almost lighter, airier. But again, this thought, which would have been troubling to anyone else, perhaps, was simply something to be observed and accepted. Much in the same way, he began at some point to notice other shapes in the library, other forms, other airy, blue, misty forms moving through the stacks and the shelves, reading the books, studying the notes. But this did not bother him to see these things. After all, why would it? Why would it surprise or bother or shock him to see others just like him? And as he closed the book and with his airy, blue, misty hands put it back on the shelf, he was not worried. He was not hopeless. He was not disappointed. There was no one left to brand him a fool, to call his search for knowledge an obsession. He was where he belonged. And so he took the next book off the shelf, opened it, and began to read.